Excuse me. Welcome everybody to the 24th of September 2025 meeting of the Human Resources Committee. And I'd particularly like to welcome Sarah Saunders and we know Emily Cordwell as well from the HR team. So may I just remind everybody to use their microphones when speaking as the meeting's being webcast. And we're going to start with the first item on the agenda, which is apologies.
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, which is the minutes of the 4th of June 2025 meeting. Are members content for me as Chair to sign these minutes? I think we need a proposer. Would somebody like to propose? Yep, Councillor Connolly and second, Councillor Wilcox. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. So those are carried. So item 3, Chair's announcements. So I haven't really got any announcements other than to say that we do have one item of urgent business later on in the meeting to report. So just moving on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. So without further ado, we'll hand over to Emily to introduce the Human Resources Q1 statistics. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So you'll be familiar with the layout for the statistics for each quarter. This is Q1 for 25-26. The sickness absence data, again, is split between long and short term. We have used benchmarking data for up to 31st of March 2025 for comparison. We can't actually get benchmarking data for Q1 for the different local authorities, so that's the best we can do for that comparison. For short term and long term, in this quarter report, we've included the reasons for absence, just to give you an idea of what people reported as absent on our HR system. Moving on to recruitment, the main highlight on there is the difficulty of environmental health technical officers, which differs from previous quarters. Previously, it was planning. Planning is still hard to recruit area. We just hadn't gone out for recruitment in that quarter. So we have the environmental health. That was our main struggle. With vacancies, again, there's still 56 unfilled vacancies. I've given the reasons and how many posts are pending vacancy there. So a lot of them are pending service reviews or to be deleted following a service review, and many are in the process of being recruited to. So that means the advert's been out, they've been interviewed, they're pending a start date. And recruitment has been successful for 3 posts, so they have been appointed. We're just in the interim before they start with us. Again, with turnover, there's the stats for the turnover for the following areas, and then what we plan to do in Q2. And with L&D, we've looked at our L&D for the next quarter. We're in the process of looking at the training needs analysis for all staff to highlight what the statutory needs are and what across the council we need to be looking at. One of them was neurodiversity, so we've got a workshop taking place in October for staff, and Unison are funding half of that. And then health and safety stats that Peter has done, and attached are the committee minutes from Health and Safety Committee. I'm happy to take any questions on that report.
So any questions or comments? Councillor Defley.
Thank you, Chair. I've probably asked you this before, so apologies. But in terms of turnover and retention of staff, when people generally resign their position, is there a policy to retain them at that point? Are there any measures that you might use to entice them to think again? I'm just curious, that's all, because it's taken twice as long to recruit people as it is to retain them. Thank you.
We do have conversations with staff at the time and explore different avenues. We were introducing sort of avenue that people can come to HR if they're thinking about resigning before they actually do, to see if anything we can do to support them. We're looking into introducing that. We haven't yet, but when people do resign, the managers or directors will have conversation with them to see the reason, something we can do to prevent that. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Connolly.
Thank you for the report. My points mostly are from the Health and Safety Committee minutes from May. Item 4 on page 30 talks about 6 incidents of people feeling unwell due to poor air quality due to carbon dioxide levels. I guess my question is, how is it monitored, who by and how frequently? The reason for my concern is that in item 8 on page 34, there's an action for property to monitor the CO2 levels and work on ventilation and other things. But that's in a committee meeting that happens every 3 months. And to me, this feels a little bit more urgent, especially if it's affecting 6 people. So I don't know if there's other mechanisms where that sort of thing can be followed up or is followed up.
I'm not actually sure, but I can report back to the HR advisor, the health safety advisor, and see what are in place to monitor that. I don't know if Sarah knows anything about the carbon dioxide, whatever it's called. I don't know much about that, so I don't know how it gets monitored on a regular basis. So I can definitely find out and report back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. And then my second one in the same minutes is item 6, parking services, page 31. So Ezra O'Neill was carrying out car park inspections, which is great, but he's identifying some really quite important things in car parks around the whole of East Herts. But then there seems to be a bit of a debate about where the actions go. Some actions have been reported that he'd found were still outstanding actions from previous inspections which hadn't been completed. And then there's the parking team, property services, facilities management, parks and open spaces, and health and safety are all involved, but it's not clear who's accountable and where those actions are going. So I'd like to know, and some of the issues, I mean, one is about structural integrity in Gascoigne Way, and another one is about the fire lining of beams in Jackson Square car park. So they're really serious. You know, that's a liability to the council, and we need to know that the department managers are responsible, not the health and safety department. So it's unfair asking you this question.
Yeah, Sarah.
I can actually help with this one because I did have a conversation today with our health and safety officer about it and taking it forward corporately because it involves lots of different council departments, and we need to bring them together in order to make sure actions are taken forward and it's clear who does it and within timescales. So we had a conversation today about taking responsibility for that. So it is in hand, and I appreciate the points that you've made, and I can feed that back to the team as well.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. And then I just had one more in the AOB, the ice cream van. Somebody did note that it was operating its engine to stay cool and giving fumes in Hartham Common. So that was great that somebody's observed that and decided that something needs to happen about it. We've already looked at it in Hertford Town Council and have ice cream vans that now have batteries to keep their ice cream cool while they're parked. So that was a great observation. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Defley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just picking up actually on something that Councillor Connolly's just observed. High CO2 levels being recorded inside the office space. I've never heard of anything like that in my life, to be honest with you. So why is it being recorded? Where is it being recorded exactly? And is there a history of problems with that particular thing? I mean, it sounds bizarre, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't understand it.
Well, Councillor Defley, just from a purely lay personal view here, I do remember when I was teaching that we were given monitors to monitor the level of CO2. So it is a thing, but I'm not quite sure how regularly it's monitored in offices. I think it can have a negative effect, but perhaps we can have some kind of report back on that.
Yeah, I think each like office part of the building has a monitor on the wall. So at any time you can view the air quality on CO2 on the wall. So it's obviously changing all the time, so we can monitor it sort of as it is every day. But I definitely report back to the health and safety advisor on that.
Can I just come back to you on that? So in my sort of 35 years of working in the private sector, I've never seen a monitor. It's never been an issue, and it's never been recorded before. So you have to understand my incredulity over it, really. It's bizarre. But yeah, I'd like to know more about it, I must say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions on this item? There's just one question, additional question I've got, which is on the first part, really on the vacancies. And what do you think are the reasons for that kind of level of vacancies, level of difficulty with recruitment? What is it to do with? Is local government reorganisation affecting things, or is it other elements, do you think?
I think it's a combination of reasons. So I think LGR will be affecting things as people aren't moving. They aren't sort of going from council to council. And equally, there is a shortage of these skilled workers where we're struggling, especially in planning and environmental health, where a lot of our vacancies are because we can't recruit to those posts rather than being held for sort of restructuring. They're skilled staff, there's a shortage of them, and we're just struggling to recruit. So I do think it's a combination of reasons.
And if I can add to that, if it's helpful, I can give an example of planning and environmental health. As Emily said, there is a skilled shortage. We're really good at recruiting to the more junior levels, so getting planning officers in at a lower level and training them up, and then they might move on for career development opportunities. Where we really struggle is for the more senior principal posts across the board, attracting people, because a lot of people move into the private sector because we can't necessarily compete with kind of the pay compared to the private sector. So there are a whole number of factors, and there are pockets with the professions where it's just really difficult to recruit at the moment, and hopefully it will change over time, but it's just very difficult in certain areas.
Thank you. Is that true for both of those professions, but the senior level, but environmental health at the senior level, as well as planning?
It is. It's the same. It's really difficult at that kind of more senior principal level, getting people with experience. And because the private sector, there's a big pull to move into the private sector for certain positions. Local government does have a lot to offer, and a lot of people do have good careers, and there are a number of benefits that do attract some people, but we can't necessarily always compete with the private sector.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that. Okay, so if there are no other comments on the human resources and the and those minutes of the safety committee, let's move to our recommendations. So they are to consider the human resources management report for Q1, April to June 2025, and provide any comments to the HR advisor regarding the content or formatting of the report. So could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Connolly and a seconder, Councillor Defley, and all those in favour? That's unanimous, so thank you very much. So that's carried. So now we're moving on to the annual equalities report, which is on page 38 of your papers. So if I can just hand over to Emily again for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the annual equalities report covers 2024 to 2025, and lays out the recommendations set for 25 to 2026. It obviously goes through the protected characteristics and the employee profile, recruitment and disciplinary grievance and probation, training and leavers. And then, as I say, the recommendations for the next year, 2026. I didn't actually write this report, but I'll try and answer your questions if you have any.
So are there any comments or questions on this report? I've got just a couple. I know it's focusing on six of the protected characteristics, and I don't know why, but there are actually 9, aren't there? So it might be interesting to know why we're only focusing on 6 of those. And you may not be able to answer that now, but it would be helpful.
Yeah, I'm not sure why we don't report on all of them, but I can definitely find out and go back to you.
Yeah, I think if that was sort of included in the next report, just for clarification, that would be helpful. And the other thing I would like to just raise, obviously, I think I've mentioned this before, but I think it's the National Union of Unpaid Carers. They're keen for caring to be a protected characteristic under the equalities legislation. And maybe that's something that could be included in a future report. But it would also be useful to know what we do, particularly for carers, in terms of policies and so on, to protect them, because they have particular needs.
At the moment, we don't log if someone's a carer or not, but we have got a policy in place in our general leave policy that covers caring responsibilities. So if you are a carer, you're entitled, or have care responsibilities, you're entitled to 5 days pro rata paid for those responsibilities, and you haven't got to give reasoning or declare why you need the day. You're entitled to the day. We outline the definition of carers in our policy, so it sort of differs depending on the scenario, but we definitely recognise that and allow the entitlement for them to have those responsibilities. But yeah, we can include it in next report.
Thank you. I think it's something that perhaps, it probably does come into your manager's training, but it's something that managers obviously need to be alert to. Okay, any other comments before Councillor Connolly?
Thank you. It's just an observation really on the recommendations on page 71, 72. In the training section, there's a recommendation to continue to promote equalities-based events such as International Women's Day. In the same box, it then moves on to maintaining a bank of mental health first aiders and worrying about their training, which kind of loses us a bit on the equalities-based events. So it's a shame that that's not separated and perhaps made a bit more of, because I then can't resist, looked it up because I thought, oh, there must be loads of other things. I immediately thought of men, because there's lots of things, suicide and mental health. So there's actually loads of really good equality and diversity calendars, which give also, you could do something every day of the week. I'm not recommending that, but I wonder if the recommendation could have been beefed up to at least say, well, let's do a couple a month or something from one of these calendars. So just wondered if we could do a little bit more there. So, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And we also putting together a sort of eStarts Together group that focus on EDI. So as you say about the calendar of different events every day, those group of people will be looking at that and putting on events for different things and recognising sort of Ramadan and mental health awareness, all that sort of thing. So we are working on sort of that's been a priority.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any last comments before? Yes, Councillor Wilcox.
It's a very small point for a question. In the ethnic census, I see that the resident census of Hertfordshire has 0% unknown, but the staff of the East Herts is 5% unknown. Is that because one's like mandatory to answer and one's not?
What page is this on, sorry?
Sorry, this is on page 52.
I'm not actually sure, but I can only imagine that they have answered they didn't want to give the information. So that's where it's at 5% come from. I'm not actually sure where that 5% has come from, because it would probably be under other. I'm not sure, but I can find out for you.
No, I was just wondering. I wondered whether because the census is mandatory and a employee survey isn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it isn't it is mandatory, but you haven't got to give the answer. You can say other, but it is mandatory to respond, but you haven't got to give sort of your ethnicity.
Thank you. Yep, Councillor Deafley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, sorry about this. It's just from my own understanding, is it a legal requirement to do this report? I mean, it's a very good report, but I'm just wondering, is it a legal requirement?
Yeah, I think so.
It is.
Thank you. Any other final comments? Okay. But I'd just like to say thank you very much to the officer who did the report. Emily, you introduced it, but it was another officer who developed it. Thank you. So pass on our thanks to them, because I think it is really helpful to us to have that background. Okay, so the recommendations are that the annual equalities report 2024 to 25 be noted, and B, the recommendations set out in the 2025-2026 action plan are considered and approved. Could I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Wilcox, and a seconder. Councillor Connolly, and all those in favour? So that's passed, that's carried. Thank you. So moving on to item 7, urgent items. We've got one item to report under here, and I'm going to hand over to Sarah Saunders to talk about that.
Thank you. It's just really an operational update, and to, you know, as we're together tonight, just to provide you with that information. So as you may be aware, there's been a number of kind of management changes within HR over recent years, and with Ellie Starling's contract coming to an end at the end of August, Helen Standen took the opportunity just to review the management arrangements for the HR team, and has explored a number of options, and specifically with Broxbourne as a neighbouring council. And as a result of that, the council's entered into a shared partnership arrangement for shared HR services, but very specifically around the management of HR. So it's not a full-blown shared service. It's not two teams coming together and creating one. It's very much in respect of the management arrangements. So we've recruited to a shared HR manager, a senior HR business partner, who will split their time between East Herts and Broxbourne. And there's also some specialist HR support being provided by Broxbourne as well. So it's taking the opportunity to work with a neighbouring council, thinking ahead to local government reorganisation, and there'll be opportunities, I guess, within that arrangement. If there needs to be, the two teams can work together and provide support for each other as well. So the SLA has been entered into with Broxbourne for 1 year at the moment, and there'll be an opportunity to review it in 6 months' time. But it's just to give you an update in relation to that, and an opportunity if you want to ask any questions. But we just wanted to stress it's about the management arrangements at this point. There's no proposals to bring the two teams together and start aligning policies and any of that at this point in stage. It's just about bringing kind of the management arrangements together.
Thank you very much for that introduction. So are there any questions on that as to how that might work? Or I think it will be quite a big change. So it will be interesting to see how the teams work together. But just to clarify, so our current HR officers will remain here, and Broxbourne's current HR officers will remain there. But there will be an additional member of staff who's working between those. And what kind of things will they do?
So they will be responsible for the day-to-day management of the team, and will provide that specialist advice. So they will split their time as they need to, but half the time in theory, half the time in East Herts, half the time in Broxbourne. You might find at times there needs to be a little bit more time focused in East Herts if there's a particular issue, or there might be a particular issue in Broxbourne. But Broxbourne also have a specialist HR advisor at assistant director level, who will also provide some management support and direction as well. So it's very much just the manager post being split between the two councils and managing kind of the day-to-day with the team.
Thank you. And just one additional question. And so at the moment you're the strategic lead for the HR, and that remains as a, so we have a senior leader, and it's just the management that bit in between which is shared.
That's right. And the shared manager post will report into me on a day-to-day basis as well. So we do have that oversight. And there's obviously an SLA which sets out expectations, and that will be monitored. I think it's important. We've only signed up to it for a year, and we will review it in 6 months' time to make sure it's working on both sides.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions on that? Well, thank you very much, and thanks very much for that overview. I think that actually brings us to the end of the meeting. So, so a final thank you to our officers for all their support and help. Very much appreciated. And the meeting ends at 19:26. So you get away quick.